Well, hi folks, hope you're well and had a good day. Um, there used to be a saying, I think Shakespeare said it best, to thine own self be true. And when I was at school, I was never a Shakespeare fan, to be honest. I had to do Shakespeare for English literature, etc., and we're brought up with it. And yeah, went to Stratford upon Avon, saw the Bard, but there's a big debate, as always, with conspiracies, that it wasn't actually Shakespeare that wrote the plays. He simply penned them. He never had the idea of them. He gave it the face for the invisible writer, if you like. And it was some duke of somebody or other, I can't remember now. It's the fluoride. But anyway, at the end of the day, it's the words that matter. And the to thine own self be true. And it gets you thinking, in all the plays, they all had, the Twelfth Night and Merchant of Venice and these sort of things. They all really depict situations in life, particularly, well, one that stood out for the crowd for me was the Merchant of Venice. Because as we know, in those days, Venice was the centre of the world with the ships, and still remains a very, very powerful trading place, doesn't it, Venice? That's where all the ships were based, and they used to control all the seas. But to thine own self be true, let's get back to that. It takes some thinking, does that, what was actually meant by it, because people often say it, oh, well, the other way of saying it, of course, is suit yourself. Well, suit yourself. Take it or leave it, suit yourself. Well, of course. But so many of us, we spend our time not suiting ourselves. We spend our time trying to keep others happy. I've gone through phases in my life where I've sacrificed lots of things in order to keep other people happy. I've almost not bought their friendship, but bought their compliance, bought their favour. And yes, on occasions, I suppose, I have self-sacrificed to maintain a friendship because the other person was, get this, suiting themselves. And in order for them to suit themselves, they would hold their position. They were intransigent. They would not move from what was pissing me off. And hats off to them. To themselves, they were being true. But it takes you a long time, actually, I think, through life. Nobody really sits and teaches you. I only wish that somebody did sit and teach me, but I was hinted at a lot by my father and my older brothers that sooner or later, you can't please all the people all the time, so you may as well please yourself. You can't please all the people all the time, so you may as well please yourself. And that is the theme of this video. We spend a lot of our time trying to keep other people happy. In relationships, whether they're gay relationships or heterosexual relationships, very often there's a dominant partner, very often. Historically, it was the man in the marriage that was dominant because he was the main breadwinner. But they seem to have lost that gravitas now, haven't they? It should be 50-50, and when couples get married, it's always 50-50. But you can guarantee and bet your left testicle, quite frankly. I've still got mine. That out of them, eventually, you see, there's no such thing as democracy, even if there's just the two of you. Because it's very rare to get two people in complete agreement. Very, very rare. They may say they're in complete agreement, but when you separate them and interrogate them, you'll find that one's a little bit more recessive than the other. There's always a dominant one. And, the men, if they know what's good for them, will normally give in. And he's hardly being true to himself, is he? But he is, isn't he, in the sense that he knows which side his bread is buttered on. and if he knows what's good for him. Yes. So despite all the bravado down the pub with the lads, it's still her indoors who calls the shots. Yes. But not everybody's married, not everybody's in a relationship. But for us little Britons in Britain and the Yanks in the States, notwithstanding our imports of late, I want to talk to you at a personal level, because I think that you do have to suit yourself. Now, you can only get this perspective, what I'm talking about is when you're a little older. So if you're young, forgive me, but I'm giving you pearls of wisdom here that have been gathered over my period of life, 57, 58 in July. And I wish I knew this when I was younger. And oh God, if only I knew when I was younger, my life wouldn't have been that much different, quite frankly, because, well, you know, I married a good one. But despite that, I think that ultimately, by the time we realise, it's too late. That's the problem. So if you're younger than me, hats off to you for learning what I'm going to tell you a little bit sooner than I learnt it. But you have to be old enough to look back, and you've got to have a bit of history, because I want you to serve the apprenticeship of bloody misery for some time in your life, because only when you know the bad times you'll know the good times. And humans are brought onto this world for, on average, 70 years, so 70. This is our lot in life, it seems. Notwithstanding the very short period of childhood, but let's just say 70, shall we? Arbitrary figure. So in those 70 years, we will have accumulated towards the twilight of our lives all this knowledge in our heads, and formulated. But what have we got to show for it? We come here with nothing, we're going to go with nothing. But we don't go with nothing, do we? No, we do. We go with our marbles, if you're fortunate to have them. But you go with your memories. And life really is an accumulation of memories, good and bad. And this is what no one else can change. And it's like, it's mine, I tell you, they're all mine, and nobody's going to take them away, because my life experience for the last 50, 60, 70 years, they're mine, they're unique to you, and they are the one sole possession you will take away. And they say you come into the world with nothing and go with it. That's not entirely true. You come in the world being a blank tape or blank memory stick, modern lingo, and you'll go out with a memory stick that's rammed to the gunnels of 70 years of compacted experiences and memory and history of you. And we have this in our head. And this is our prized possession. You can talk about your big houses and your cars and your bank accounts and your diamond rings. But by far the most golden possession you will have when you're old is a good recall, and have a good set of memories in order to recall them. But there is good news on the horizon, despite the rise in dementia and Alzheimer's, of course, because the memories far back in your childhood, as you grow older, they're the easiest to recall. Because when you're older, it's the recent memories that you'll have difficulty recalling. Well, who gives a shit about that? I don't want to know just before I die that, oh yes, I can remember that we failed to Brexit because of Theresa May being a traitor. That's of no consequence to me, no value to me, quite frankly, at my age. You know, quite frankly, it doesn't affect me whether we Brexit or not at 57. It's going to affect the next generation big time, oh for sure. But for me, my special little package accumulating in here, what I'm going to take with me is my experiences, and I can recall my early childhood, very, very early childhood, probably down to about 3.5 years old. I think I can start recalling memories. And I've seen a video of me at 3, and well, a film, beg your pardon, a film of me at 3 on a beach in Cyprus with my family, colour film. My father was a fanatical videographer. Well, it wasn't video, he was a cinema fanatic. He used to film us all the time. So I do have quite a stash of my childhood memories, which again, should I lapse into some state of amnesia, I can top it up. Good thinking, Dad. And the whole of our family have a copy of this. So there's no excuse that we at least have something in common to talk about as we sit there dribbling in our cornflakes. But they're all mine. You see, they're all unique to me, because when you look at a school photo and you know you're in it somewhere, and I say this is a school photo and this is our 6th form and you're in it as well, the first thing you will look at anyway is look for you. You're the first face that you don't say, oh yeah, I remember that, where's Jenny? No, you will look for yourself. And you will do it automatically. You will want to know as a reference, where am I? What did I look like? That's quite natural. You're not unique. And that's the way humans are, self-interested. Of course we are. But as you grow older, you go through these melancholy periods, and I do. I can remember what the streets of our country were like with no mosques. Absolutely no mosques. I think it was a rarity when I was very young to see a black person. Sidney Poitier was probably the most popular black man when I was younger. And he was on television, this new invention. Yes, I do recall black and white television, and I do recall the first time televisions entered the living room in the United Kingdom. I remember rushing round to my friend's house because he was the first kid in the street whose dad who had a telly, quite frankly, and he was the first to have a colour telly. Yes, I do remember these times, folks. I can remember rushing round. I was so excited to see what it actually looked like because we never had one at home. My father used to come home and my mother would put the radio on. It was one of those valve radios. It took 10 minutes to warm up. So you had to put it on 10 minutes to 6 before the 6 o'clock news hit, or you'd miss the headlines. And my dad would sit there waiting for the damn thing to warm up. Nobody would say a word until he'd heard the headlines. Yes, and then television took the conversation away out of our home. And it got steadily worse. And these are the memories I recall to the finest detail. And it's amazing, even so young, I could record the finest detail of my memories, and I could make the memories, because when you're young, you're a great observer, because everything seems to be so new. It makes in your brain what they call an engram, something you cannot delete, or you compartmentalize the bad engrams if you see trauma, but you highlight the good engrams. These are like on a hard drive, you've got certain hidden files and you can't delete them. They are engrams, so that all relies on mind control and trauma-based mind control. This is how they use them, and they can recall these engrams. But you really don't want to do that if they're traumatic. And anyway, that's by the by. So what have we got to show for our 70 years and 10? Because one of the most disappointing things as you grow older is that the things you value tend to be either become devalued or they disappear altogether, and then they're exchanged with things that you think are not worth the exchange. It's a little bit like they're doing in Paris at the moment, considering replacing the roof of the cathedral, Notre Dame, with something more fitting to reflect the modernity of Paris, which means they're probably going to stick a dome on the top of it just to placate the Muslims. The Muslims that, in my opinion, would probably have been the ones responsible for starting that fire. But that's for another video. Well, maybe Macron has been got at, and I don't see why they don't replace like with like. But no, they're going to ruin the roof and not put it back to its original condition on Notre Dame, in fitting with the local culture. Well, you know who the local culture are now, don't you, in Paris? Oh, if you don't, ask the yellow coats, yellow vests. So, another disruption to our society. You see, these are the traumatic things you'll remember as you go into your adult years, your autumn years. And I often make little notes to myself sometimes throughout the day, and when I come to think about things. And I suppose what I'm trying to say to you is that this world is either a heaven or a hell. It depends what you make of it. It really is that simple. Because even if you don't believe there is a heaven or a hell, there exists a heaven or a hell quite freely available in our environment right this very second. You can get involved with people so easily who live in hell. You currently may not live in hell at heaven. You might be on the decision process of the next step in life you're going to take will dictate whether you end up living in hell or heaven. But maybe you're in hell already because you made that choice very early on, and perhaps you did that by association because the people you were with were, well, they were just hellraisers. And so many people start off that way and get tired of it, and they think is this all there is? This world is hell. But they've never quite had the benefit and living in heaven, because they think the hell is all they've been brought up in. It's like putting a rat in a circular cage. The rat will go round and round and round, thinking this is it. When if only somebody would open the door to the rat and show them they got complete freedom to that field out there. But nobody seems to open the gates for many people, and they spend their life in hell, and they'll take their hell to the grave with them, and it's very sad. And I hope this doesn't happen to you, because whether you live in a hell or a heaven is entirely up to you. It's a decision away. But what makes your heaven a heaven? Well, what do I get out of life for the most part in my life, in my inner thoughts? I like to reminisce. I'm a great reminiscer. You see, nobody can really predict the future. But looking at the past, it's easy to predict, really, with the history. It's a bit like if a man's a child abuser, he's probably not going to change because he's just going to be an old child abuser by the time he gets there. Nothing will change. You see, some people are incapable of change. But you can change your mind. That's one of the big benefits in life, is being able to change your mind. You can turn your hell into heaven or your heaven to hell. And it's about the environment in which you choose to live in or within, and what your values are. And it's just a decision away whether you live in a hell or a heaven. But what can compound the belief that you've made the right decision when you want to get out of hell and go to heaven is you can take all your memories with you that are of any value, providing you haven't got dementia or Alzheimer's, of course, but assuming that you will get to the age of 70 with your marbles. Because even if you were to sit and talk to the people in nursing homes and rest homes, which I've done ad nauseum, they love talking about when they were younger, what churches were looking like, what streets were looking like in Britain, what they did in the war, what their parents did. They love it because this is their heaven. This is what they're used to. This is their comfort zone. And it is mine too. because I often spend hours looking at an open fire in a total dream world, maybe with a Glavar liqueur whiskey in my hand, just thinking. Nothing else, just staring into those flames in a big daydream, possibly half cut. Enjoying my solitude and just reminiscing about the wonderful, wonderful, wonderful times I've had since I started to be conscious of existing. That's my heaven. But I do know there are people out there harbouring such hells in their head. Okay. And very often these people want to forget the bad times. And they are the ones that should endeavour to change their habits. They have to ask themselves, why? Why is their life hell? Well, it can be because of what they've accepted. We all have choice. We truly do, unless you're in a prison. Nobody's forcing you to mix with the people you mix with. Nobody's forcing you to live where you do. Not really. It's a decision away. You see, if you want to change something about yourself and your environment, and you want to turn your hell into heaven, you just got to make the choice. It really doesn't matter why you're living in a hell, providing you recognize it. But then you have to work out the next steps. And you do it in little bites. I mean, how do you eat an elephant? Because it's such a monumental task, isn't it? Well, you eat it one slice at a time. Assuming that you've got to the midlife crisis bit of your life, which you think, oh crikey, I can't go on this hell, it's hell. Even contemplating suicide to escape the hell you might be living in. Have and take solace, because you can turn that hell into your heaven. By the time you're 60, you'll be able to look back and think, thank Christ I made that change, because what I've endured since I got out of hell has been so much nicer, and it's made up for all the hell I endured. You could treat the hell that you had to go through. You've got to go through, as they say, a lot of rainstorms and thunderstorms to find a rainbow. And our rainbow at the age of 65, 70 has got to be looking through the prism of our life in the distance and recall all the good things. Yes, you may have bad things to recall, but they pale into insignificance. The further they get away, the less important they are. And you can do a lot of repairing on that journey. You can say about your parents, if they were delinquent, forgive them, for they knew not what they did. Perhaps they didn't. You have to find it in your heart to forgive those who have done you wrong. It's not a question of turning the other cheek. It's a question of don't present another cheek. Simply turn your back and walk away. Pack up all your old troubles in your old kit back and smile, smile, smile. Isn't that what they say? Oh yes. If you find yourself in a position of feeling impotent, perhaps not a good word, at the mercy of others, you can change that. It's simple. You just refuse to accept it. And any consequence you accept has got to be better than having to deal with other people that you really don't like, don't trust, don't love, don't want to be near, and don't want to cohabit with. You see, you've got to make a decision. Do you want to continue living in the hell, or do you want to go and form your own heaven? And what better thing to do would be to form your own heaven. It's going to be your rules, your environment, your things that are going to keep you happy. Even to the extent of saying, do you know, this marriage was a bad idea. It's a living hell. And leave it. This person was a bad idea to get involved with. And leave them, male or female. You have to make these decisions. They're tough decisions to make, and they are utterly, I grant you, utterly selfish, but you have to be. Because you've got to cast your mind forward. Here I am, age 40, you might be. And if I stay put, I've got another 30 years with this bastard, or this cow, driving me up the wall. Or I don't like living here, and I don't really want to live here for the next 30 years. But look, everything you've done in your life to this very second you hear my voice right now has got you here, listening to my voice right now. Think about it. Every action, every decision, every exam you've taken, every day off you've skived off work or you've skived off school, it's got you here listening to this video right now, today, this very second, hasn't it? Make a note of the time. Seize the day. Seize the second to make a life choice. Are you happy with what's gone on before, or do you need to make a change for the better? Chances are, change for the better. Well, no better day to start than the present. Okay? Tomorrow's the future, and yesterday was the past. Today is more than now, it is a present. It's a present for you to change your future for the better. But it is your decision. Nobody else's, because you have to live with you. You see, you're not having to live with your husband you don't like, or your wife you can't stick, or the kids that are driving you round the twist and don't respect you, because you're the ones going to be sat in the nursing home, if you're lucky, with your marbles, at the age of 70, 75, maybe living on your own in a little bedsit or a little bungalow. If you've out-survived your family, and the only thing you have left are your memories and your photo albums, or your videos. And I want from now to then to be happy times for you. And it is only you and your decision process that can make them happy. I want you to leave this world with nothing but good things to take with you. Because they do say you no pockets in the shroud, you can't take it with you. No, but the only thing you have a right to take with you, and they are yours by right, by birthright, is your experience of this experience that you call life. And it is unique to you, and nobody has the same life as you. That's wonderful, isn't it? To be able to go to your grave knowing that in here, somewhere, there is a collection of memories that you've used and accumulated and been given to you freely by experience of life, the university of life, and you've made and you stored them in your little box, little storage cupboards in your brain, and these can be pulled out and reviewed anytime you feel happy. And I often do this to myself. I often stare into the fire, which is a magnificent way of spending an evening, an open fire, having a shot of whiskey liqueur. It's not the drink, it just makes it even nicer. And it relaxes you so much. And I can call back to the times. I can pick my time. Am I going to be in this memory 15, 14, 13, 12? I choose. It's my decision, nobody else's. You see? I've got my own heaven. It's my playground. It's my playpen. I can play how I like. I can go and be 18 again in my mind. I can be a 9-year-old, be playing with my father on an airfield, playing with a toy glider. I can be sat in the seat of an aeroplane with my father flying at the controls, wondering in awe that is this truly my father? Is this what he does? How grateful and lucky I am to have a father like this. Getting home, seeing my mother cooking a cake and sitting there watching her and discussing with her, for example, how did she learn to bake? How did she learn all these little skills that she has and produces such beautiful cakes and food? And we used to have long conversations that I can recall. And these are going on in my head when I'm in a nursing home, staring at the wall maybe. The conversations I had with my mother 50, 70, 60 years ago, 65 years ago. Assuming I've got my marbles at the age of 70. Because you'll remember your old times. easier than you will remember your recent events. That is the gift of life. The gift of life that we receive here is the ability to accumulate memories that we can recall as a consolation for losing our ability to operate further because we're physically unable to. We can at least stand up in our heads on the inside if we can't stand up physically. And that is the gift. The gift of our life is whether we take with us to our new dimension memories of a heaven or memories of a hell. And you can change that, and I guarantee you won't want to take memories of a hell with you. And if you are living in hell, you've got to change what's making those days gone by hell and turn the days to come into heaven. And that is simply change your mind and change your environment. Because this is a lonely journey, folks. We will come alone, we'll live alone, although you think you're with other people, but your soul is you and you are your soul for eternity. You've got to look after your soul. Great book to read, Chicken Soup for the Soul. There's a whole series of these books, make you feel good books. Well, they're fantastic. But guess what? You've got all the chicken soup you need as memories for when you get old if you play the game right. You just accumulate happy times and put them in your storage filing cabinets so when you're older you can have a reason to smile as you clean your dentures under the running water. Because you know we fall to bits when we get older, but your memories, they shouldn't fall to bits, because it's the memories that go back a long time that you'll be able to recall. Mind you, you're in trouble if you forgot what you did yesterday, but who gives a rip about that? It's like being a millionaire and losing a penny. It won't matter because you'll have so much in the bank that'll put a smile back on your face. Yes, you will take things with you when you go, but fortunately nobody can access them. Nobody can download them from you, not with current technology. And they're yours to keep, and they are a present from our Creator, whoever you choose that to be. So don't tell me we come in with nothing and we go with nothing. Whoever said that obviously didn't accumulate or learn anything for their time here. You at least have been warned. I advise you to start thinking about the happy things and whistle a happy tune. Take care. Catch you tomorrow, folks. Good night.